you go, a nice wee 8-second intro and then you're live. Scott can't moan anymore. And
What's going on?
I'm telling you, before we started, this is all Cammy's fault, is the reason that we're late, by the way. Hello and welcome to the Rangers Rabble podcast. I'm Martin and Cammy has decided to chuck it. So joining me is Wilf. Wilf, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
All we need now, Wilf, is your stream to go, and it's just me and Jamie. Jamie,
Don't
how are you?
jinx it.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Nice to be on, eventually.
First appearance. Are you nervous?
There was only some popping the cherry of the podcast, so I'm not as nervous this time. And I'm on with a legend in Wilf and Cammy as well, and then obviously you, Martin.
I love how you said I'm on with a legend, Wilf and Cammy, and then you and all, Martin. You and all. Cammy, how are you? Is that you got everything sorted?
Hopefully, yes. Fingers crossed.
Right, before we get started, I think it's poignant that we remember Wilf, a former Rangers captain, Ali Dawson, who sadly passed away from a very, very short illness. I know that you knew Ali. You spent a bit of time with him.
Yeah, I did. I've had the pleasure of being in Ali's company a good few times outside the ground. I've spoken to him quite a lot. I've met him at functions and things. Thoroughly nice guy. He'll be sadly missed. I mean, 63 is no age at all. It actually knocked me. I knew he wasn't well, but it actually kind of knocked me a bit when I heard he'd passed away. I mean, what a lot of people possibly don't realise is that the work that Ali did with street soccer and the homeless and things like that. I mean, he took Scotland's homeless team to the Homeless World Cup that they actually won. He was in charge of all that. So he's done, his time after Rangers, he's done some fantastic stuff for the community. And I know he'll be sadly missed from that point of view, but no, it's another great loss to the Rangers family. And as I say, 63 years old. The man was captain of one of the first Rangers teams I ever saw. Over 300 games. I mean, that says it all. Not a lot of players play that amount of games for the club. The only sad thing from his playing career was he never won a league title with us. He got 2 League Cups, 2 Scottish Cups, and 4 League Cups. I think he never won a title with us, which I know was a regret, as he'd love to win the league with Rangers. But I mean, he will be sadly missed by everybody that knew him. And obviously, our thoughts go out to his daughter Holly and the family at this very, very sad time for him.
Absolutely. Thoughts go out to all his family and friends. Cammy, for people obviously, unlike Wilfred, maybe didn't know him personally, it was a kind of bolt out the blue. It was a very, very short illness, and it just popped up out of nowhere.
I had the pleasure meeting him at hospitality just prior to COVID, and I had heard that he had illnesses and everything at that point, but you wouldn't have known. He was just a gentleman, and one of the first things I said to Wilf after it was announced was 63. It just that's just way too young, but it's a real sad loss for the Rangers family. And I think I done a bit more reading up on it with what Wilf said. The street soccer, I wasn't aware of the depth of how the work that he'd actually done there. So it's a sad loss, and thoughts are with his family and friends undoubtedly.
100%. Jamie, obviously before my time, before your time.
Yeah.
But it was an absolute credit to Rangers. Like the guys have said, what he done with the street soccer, what he done for the homeless, and he'll be greatly missed.
Yeah, I agree. You heard Ali McCoy's talking about him as well, so loved by all, I think. A shame.
Absolutely. So, our thoughts, condolences, and everything go towards his family and friends, and he'll be sadly missed but not forgotten. Right, so moving on then, there's kind of so much that we could put into this podcast, but very quickly, CGM, new signing, Rabble. Well, Jamie's actually been with us for a while behind the scenes, but he was always too fair to come on. So he's
I'm waiting on this hair transplant, and then I'll be a new face. Obviously not been reading some of the blogs or some of the match reports I've done, but that's fine.
Have you done blogs and match reports?
I know that you would know.
Well, I can't read. So,
I thought it was just.
We got a website.
The longest pre-season.
The longest pre-season in
history.
It's the long. You're right, Cammy. It's the longest pre-season history. And yes, we do have a website, wolfrangersrabble.co.uk, where you can find the blogs, podcasts, and a dedicated youth development page. We are live, of course, on YouTube. YouTube only going forward from now on. So if you watch all the time and you haven't subscribed, just subscribe. It's free down there. However, if you're subscribed and you enjoy the content, you can, of course, join as a member, where you will receive members-only podcasts, emojis, loads of different stuff behind the scenes. If you want to help support the podcast as well, you can become a member. So if you fancy that and you want to help out the podcast, then please do. Right, let's talk about Rangers. Cammy, George Edmundson, Ipswich, 7-figure fee. Happy with that?
I mean, I think it's something that we have to improve as our player trading, and I think that's the one test that Ross Wilson has still to pass. But I think, to be honest, George Edmondson, it's the right time for him to move on. I'm pleased that it's on a permanent basis. I think his time was up, along with Jordan Jones, when the COVID issue earlier in the year. So it's not a great surprise. I think he'll do well down there. I think that's probably level one, League One, Championship. I think that's his level. Wouldn't surprise me if he moved on for Ipswich. So I would hope that Ross Wilson is potentially stuck in a future sell-on, if that was at all possible. But good luck to the big man. Probably his finest moment for me was when he played in Braga, when Ryan Kent. I thought he had a very good game. Very good game that night. Well, that's his finest moment on the park, I would say. There's probably a few moments off the park, but we'll not go into that.
No, we certainly won't go into that. Jamie, CGM's said, look, Edmondson had to go. I think we could have got a bit more for him, but it's still a profit. Did he have to go? Was Edmondson one of the defenders that you felt he's not got a future? Or because I think there is not many, maybe 2% of the Rangers support that maybe thought, look, this guy's going to be cracking in the years to come. Let's keep a hold of him. But with all the obviously defenders that we've got, is he the obvious choice to go?
I think he's the obvious choice to go, Martin. But I'm probably one of those 2%. I don't know. You take to a player. I liked him. And I thought he did have a couple of dodgy moments, but who doesn't have a dodgy moment? But I just liked Big George. I thought he was pretty fast, pretty strong. So I said that in the chat, I'm always disappointed to see a player come and no work out for them. And I know it can't happen. In fact, it won't happen for everybody, but I'm always a little disappointed to see a player come and no really make the impact that you probably think he could have made or should have made. So I'm probably a little bit disappointed. Probably not as disappointed as some of maybe the female Rangers fans that the big man's away, but that's maybe for another day.
I'm not even going to mention the name. Were you surprised that Edmondson went? I mean, I've asked these all basically the same question, but in fact, I'll change the question. Are you surprised that the fee we got from, considering how much he's not played?
Don't know what the fee is because it was officially undisclosed. I mean, I've heard fees ranging from 800k up to just over $1 million. So I don't know what the actual fee was, but I mean, it sounds like we've certainly made money on it because we bought for what, 600 grand, I think. So to not lose money on him, having had him for a couple of years. Okay, he was out on loan at Derby for last season. I'm not surprised he's gone because we're top heavy with centre halves, and he's at the age now that he needs games. And he won't get games in the B team because he's too old. And there isn't a reserve league. So he's just going to sit and fester. Because there's at least 4 centre-halves in front of him. You could argue there's 5 centre-halves in front of him, depending on how big Katic is when he gets back into the swing of it. So, personally, I think one of the centre-halves had to get sold and another one will go out on loan. So, it's always sad to see, as Jamie said, it's always sad to see somebody come, not really work out and then get moved on. But it's encouraging to see that we've moved them on for a profit, even if it's only a slight profit. Because not that many years ago, we would just have said, Jaws, there's your contract paid up, go and find yourself a club. You know what I mean? Which doesn't do us any good. So from that point of view, I think it's a decent enough deal. As Cammy says, hopefully we've got a decent sell-on clause because we don't want another Martin Wacker situation. We'll let somebody go for, we'll let him go for nothing. And then he goes for like £6 or £7 million, 6 months a year later.
So you'll be hoping then, Wilf, that there's a kind of sell-on clause involved in that deal as well then?
Well, hopefully it's a decent sell-on clause, 10-15%, but that would reflect the price. As I say, we don't know what the price is because it's a stupid undisclosed. I hate undisclosed fees because you're guessing about what it is and you're hearing rumours it's this and it's that. But I would think that if it was less than $1 million, I would like to think there's a decent sell-on clause there. If we did get 7 figures for him, I would doubt very much if there is a sell-on clause in there.
Well, we're obviously led to believe that it was a 7-figure sum, but like you say, Wilf, undisclosed, you never know. It could be $500,000 with add-ons, you just don't know. Cammy, why didn't it work for Edmundson? Because he hasn't been here for long. He looked, like you say, there's a couple of games where he looked really good. He was still young. So why has it not worked out for him? Is it just simply the COVID stuff? His Cammy froze. Cammy's froze, isn't he? That's quite scary looking, isn't it? Cammy, did you hear the question?
Nope.
See, this is the type of world class. This is the type of world class punditry we have on the Rangers Rabble. This is why we need members. Cammy,
and it's not me this time.
Sorry, I never heard the question. I've never had an issue until the last 2 weeks. To be fair, I have no idea what's going on. See the thing going back to Edmondson. I think sometimes you get a lesser fee because there's a sell-on clause. I think that might be something that happens. We're not going to go down the conversation about Glenn Kamara, but if you were to get 15 million for Glenn Kamara, it might be worth 20 million, but you might get a higher sell-on clause. Sometimes you have to maybe take a lesser fee because you're going to get more money in the future, But anyway, that was all I wanted to say on Edmundson.
I think
final question to you then, Jamie. Why did it not work for him?
Competition, probably. I think that I mean, it would have seemed that Gerrard perhaps liked him as a player anyway, and then I think I don't know, the way Helander started, people were a bit like, whoa, but the big man's shown to be probably a yard a pace away from being a top defender. So that's been his competition. Goldson, Helander, the way they've come on, even Balogun with his pace as well. Katic is back now. Aye. And then COVID, easy option in it.
Well, actually, just on that, Wilf, we've got a comment in for CGM who says, look, Edmundson was ahead of Katic and Gerrard's thoughts when they were both fit, so the rating is on the wall for him too. Do you go along with that? I don't know so much if Edmundson was ahead of Katic, but going by CGM's logic, do you buy into possibly Katic leaving as well then?
I would be very, very surprised if Katic doesn't go out on loan. I don't think he'll leave the club. I think he'll go out on loan because he's just been out for a year and he needs games. And he's not going to get regular run of games in our team the way our squad is just now because there's three centre halves in front of him, possibly 4 at the moment if you put Simpson in front of him as well. But I mean, Helander, Goldson, and Big Balogun, they're definitely in front of him, and possibly Simpson at the moment. So I would expect Katic to go out on loan, and I'd like to think he'll go out on loan to a decent Premier League side.
Yeah.
So maybe a Hearts or possibly even Aberdeen, or because we seem to be in better relations with them just now. But it'd be pointless putting them down to Championship because that wouldn't do any good at all. And you can put them down in England, but they play a completely different game of football down there. So it's probably better try to get them on loan somewhere in the Premiership up here.
Well, just on that, you're saying he might go out on loan. Thomas has said, look, need to keep Katic for next season. Balogun is too old to be long term. Cammy, you're shaking your head.
But Wilf nailed it. He's been out for a year. What opportunities is he going to get a run of games to get his match fitness? I think it is. I would basically be looking at season-long loan, but we have a recall option at Christmas. Yeah. I think if he could get 4 months of regular football, by all means, bring him back for the second half of the season. But he has to play games. I know what the point is with regard to Balogun, and Helander has obviously had his injury issues. Golson, we obviously hope is going to sign an extension at some point before the end of the transfer window. But Katic, I think he just has to go out and play games.
Well, we've got Fog Dog, one of our members, who says, look, Katic needs 6 months at least of continuous first-team games to get back up to speed after his injury. Jamie, I think that's quite possibly something that we need to remember. Look, he's been out for a full year with a serious injury. So is that maybe one thing that will tempt Gerrard to go, right, we can't risk you in the first team, so we will send you out on loan? And on top of that, answer that question, right? Since it's your first time, I'm going to give you 2 questions at one time. See, James also put in, Katic won't stay in Scotland. He's a Croatian international. He would tell Hearts to jog on. So answer the 2 questions and make it good.
I think Fog Dog's nailed it. He needs games. Not just that, for Rangers as a club, we pay his wages. So we need to actually test if his knee's going to be able to handle it. So this needs to be, like Wilf said, SPL, fast, powerful, running, and just see how his leg. He's got all the attributes to be a top defender that he is. Now, I don't know if he is a Croatian internationalist, maybe under 21s, but remember he's contracted to us. So if Gerrard says he's going to Hearts on loan, he'll be going to Hearts on loan.
No, that's a no bad answer, Wilf. Any upgrade on Jamie's?
No, he's spot on. He needs to. But the thing for Katic, he has to be playing games, and he has to play them at a decent level, and at the sort of games that we have to play. So there's no point. As in my opinion, there's no point in putting them to the English Championship because the football's a totally different game of football down there.
Nah, well, Stuart's saying let's send Katic to Hearts, but look, if we move away from Katic, Cammy, we've obviously got quite a big pool of players now. We're obviously always looking to add to the squad, but in order to add to the squad, I would suggest that we have to start looking to get rid of some fringe players. So who would you, in fact, I'll ask you 2, who do you think should leave and who do you think will leave before the end of the transfer window?
Barker, Jones, without a doubt. Hasty, I don't consider part of the first team group, but I think he will, I've been told, will be going to Partick Thistle, but it's that's no done yet. So I think there's 3. I just think it's excess players that are just going to be sitting in the stand. I think if you could get those guys away on permanent deals, I think that would be ideal. But I fear that we'll probably be stuck with a loan situation again because of their contract situation. Are you wanting to know about who else I think will leave, or
who do you think we will be able to get rid of? I suppose is a better question.
Well, I think that. I think first you're looking at the first 11 players that you would be able to get rid of. I still expect one of the starting 11 to leave by the end of the window. I could be completely wrong with regard to that. I don't know if the board are taking the gamble with regard to Champions League income. I don't know, but Glenn Kamara for me still 2 years left in his contract. A great Euros. We've got 150 midfield players, potentially Veerman coming in. I think I still think this is the optimum time to maximise the money you're going to get for Glenn Kamara. But with regard to the excess squad, I think you're looking at trimming the Barkers and the Joneses and guys like that. And if you could get rid of them for a fee, I was hoping Edmondson plus Barker, buy one get one free sort of situation, because Brandon Barker's never going to be he'll never be a Rangers player. He shouldn't be a Rangers player with that haircut anyway.
No.
Well, this is the thing, Jamie. We can only get rid of players who are wanted by other clubs. This is obviously the big issue we've got, and if you've got 4 or 5 fringe players who haven't really performed and there's no interest in them, then you're stuck with them.
I think you are, but I think guys like Brandon Barker down south, there'll always be a club that will take a guy like that, because he's been down on a loan, done all right, here and there, and Jordan Jones as well was down in Sunderland. I know it was a bits and bobs, but these guys will get it. And you know what the English market's like? Last day, these guys will be camped in a hotel somewhere down there. I think the likes of your Barker and Jones will definitely get a move. I think they'll go. I think Middleton's the only other one that I think we need to make a decision on now, because he's had his loan to the SPL last year.
Mm-hmm.
Did he do enough, really, for us to think? What I always think is, if Middleton wasn't a Rangers player, would we be looking to buy him after his performances last season? I think the answer's no. So, but would we? I mean, what are you going? It could be time up for Glenn as well. And I don't want to talk about his selling Kamara. He's my favourite player, so I'm not prepared for that. If he has to go, it has to be now, and if not, then just to sign a new contract, please, man. Martin, you can give him some of your wages, and maybe that can top up, man.
He's getting none of my millions. Well, CJM's look, but he's put, look, a lot will depend on how qualification for the Champions League goes. Is there a possibility that Rangers could just hold off until we find out what's happening? Or is it a case of if somebody comes in now, they have to go?
If somebody comes in now with what they consider to be a ridiculous bid, whoever the bid's for will go, because that's the way it's going to work. I'm like Cammy. Sorry, Jamie. I expect a silly bid to come in for Glenn Kamara, and we would be daft not to accept it, I think. But I mean, to answer the question, yes, I think we will hold off, depending on who we get in the draw on Monday, because I fully expect us to get past Malmö, and I know we'll come on to that later. But I mean, if it looks like a sort of a favourable draw on Monday, they might just stick their eggs in one basket and say, well, we'll hang on and see what happens, because the Champions League qualifiers finish before the window closes, but there's not a lot of time between the two, so you're not really giving yourself a lot of scope. But I mean, unless any ridiculous bid come in for any of the top players, I don't think we'll be in any hurry to sell any of them. But the point about the fringe players, I think a lot of them will leave, but I don't think they'll leave on permanent deals because of the contracts. Cammy says because of the contracts they're on. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's interesting that Ipswich apparently also want. Who did Ipswich come in for? We had Jordan Jones. Jordan Jones, sorry. It's interesting that they want to pair Jones and Edmundson up again. You know, I mean, do they not know what happened with the two of them?
I've heard that Wigan are interested in Jordan Jones as well.
But the good thing is, if there's 2 or 3 clubs interested, because Sunderland apparently want them back as well. So if there's 2 or 3 clubs interested in them, then that's good from our point of view, because then we can sell them and we can get them bidding against each other for them. You know, and we can maximise the money we get from them, because I think the club would be looking for upwards of £1 million for him.
Aye. Which
would be tremendous business if we got it.
Aye, well, there was a question that came in there, for CGM. CGM, we're going to have to get you on because you make too much sense. Any word on how Jack got on with his surgeon chat yesterday? Is he good to go? And Stuart Keane put in quite rightly, well, it's press conference tomorrow. Stevie will tell us all about Jack, but I didn't. It shows you how out the loop I am when I'm working and doing other things. I didn't even know Jack was talking to his surgeon, Cammy. Has there been any? Have you heard anything? Well, Cammy's obviously decided that he doesn't want any volume on his mic, so Wilf will take that back to you.
No, I haven't heard anything. I mean, if this is a rumour that's in, or information that's in the national press, I won't know it because I don't read any of it. So I wasn't aware that Jacko was speaking to the surgeon.
No, neither was I. Cammy, are you back in the room? Does he just?
Hello?
There we go.
Yeah.
This is absolutely. We should get podcast of the year, shouldn't we? We really should.
I think the manager, when he was doing all the interviews with Sky last week, made reference to Ryan Jack potentially being into training after he'd spoken to the surgeon. But I think press conference day tomorrow, I think he's more likely to maybe update us at that point.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I accidentally closed the window. This is all Jamie's fault because he's new.
What is going on?
What is going on tonight? Right, okay, so we've talked about the outs. If we do manage to get a few out, maybe sell I don't know, a Kamara, Jamie.
Please no.
Looking at the squad, looking at the pre-season fixtures, we're looking pretty good. We've played quite well. But if you were to strengthen one area of the park going into the new season, where would it be? And if you've got any players in mind, who would you be looking at?
I don't. As we stand right now, I'm pretty comfortable. I think now, even if we bring in, I know we're going to talk about the young guy for Man U, but I know Veerman's been spoke about so much, and it's just went quiet. So that is, I need to read into that. I don't know if that's going to actually happen now. And see, for me, I don't think we'll buy anyone now unless somebody goes. So it's going to be Kamara or Morelos, isn't it? So if either of them go, then you're looking for a replacement for them, which would be Veerman or striker. Who's it going to be?
Well,
Nisbet, doubt it.
I very much doubt it, but well, this is a question. Obviously, all you hear is, and what we've seen from the other side of the city is, if you don't move forward, you're most certainly going back the way. But as it stands just now, going into the new season, going into the Champions League qualifiers, how comfortable are you and how confident are you in this current Rangers team if it didn't add anybody else?
I'm comfortable with what we've got as long as we don't lose anybody. I mean, we haven't stood still because we've brought in a couple of players. We've brought in Sakala, and we've brought in Livingston. I mean, they've been brought in as first team players. I mean, if nobody leaves, I think we will still maybe bring in a couple of squad players, but squad players that are better than the players we've just talked about going out on loan. Better than the Jones and the Barkers, and guys that are going to come in to maybe play 10, 15 games. But then we don't particularly need that because we've got Stephen Kelly. I would expect to be about the first team playing games. Obviously, we've got Nathan Patterson doing exactly the same. Calvin Bassey's looked good in pre-season, and I know it's only pre-season. You can't really allow into that. But so even at that, we don't really need. There's a sort of gap, a quality and experience gap between those young players and the first team players. And unless the player fits into that gap, I don't see the point of bringing them in because they'll just end up like the Joneses and Barkers and Middletons. I mean, I like Glenn Middleton. I really, really like Glenn Middleton as a player, but his problem is that he doesn't have a position. He's one of these players. You've seen him even in pre-season. He's played at fullback. He's played in midfield. He's not like a central midfield player or a left back or a right back or a centre half or a striker. And because he doesn't have a position, he'll get decent moves to decent clubs, but he won't play a lot of football, if that makes sense. Because nobody knows where to play. We'll fill in a lot of places. And we don't need a player like that right now of his level. So I think he'll go as well. So we need somebody between his level and the first team guys that we've got, unless somebody leaves. If somebody leaves, we need to bring in a direct replacement for him, whoever it is.
The problem with that, Cammy, is you can't. We'll just take Kamara for example, right? If Kamara was to go, you can't just pick up another 50 grand Glenn Kamara. If Glenn Kamara goes for 15, 20, 25 million, it's very difficult then to go out and find a player to replace somebody of the calibre of Kamara.
You're certainly not going to replace him for 50 grand. I think that is never ever going to happen again. I think the only business I can see us do is the guys have pretty much covered what I would say is if a player leaves, that's the only way I can see players coming in, to be honest.
I know, and what I'm going to do now for regular viewers will understand I've got the puppy at the door going mad, so I'm going to ask you a question, Jamie. Disappear for 2 minutes, deal with the puppy and come back, and by the time I've come back, you've made an outstanding, excellent point which just shows the strength we have on the Rangers Rabble. Is that all right?
Aye.
Right. Jamie, who is Charlie McCann? Oh,
They cut me off. Well, listen, as we know, I don't think many of us knew as much about Charlie McCann as we probably did, and all I probably know is what John probably done a bit more research than a lot of us. So, 19-year-old midfielder, Man United's under 23s, 6 or an 8. People seem to be a bit excited by him. So, bit of chat about whether he's going to come in and be a first team or a B team player. It looks like he's going to go to the B team, but I probably see a young guy like that come in and go to the B team probably till January even, and see what's going to happen then. If he really excels, then he might get quickly loaned out in the second half of the season. But John made a good contribution in the chat earlier when he was telling us that the under-23 league down in England, I mean, it's a Premier League, but it's almost like no contact and stuff like that. So that was a bit of an eye-opener for me. But the technically all gifted, but the hustle and bustle of Scotland might not suit him initially. So exciting, which seems to be the word everybody's using. So if you're ever getting a guy off Man United who seems to be highly rated at 19-year-old and playing for their 23s, sounds good.
You've got to ask yourself, Cammy, then, why are we getting a guy who's so highly rated at Manchester United for their under-23s? For apparently, and listen, I've got absolutely no inside information. I had never heard of this guy until John had put that tweet out. But if you're getting a guy like that for $750,000, you've got to ask yourself why.
I think he's year left in his contract. I think that's probably we often talk about the pathway. He potentially doesn't see a pathway. So him and his representative are obviously just looking for a good move to a progressive club on a comparable size. But we're obviously bigger than Man United, so it's a step up for him. But I think John pretty much nailed it. English under-23 development football. I mean, Dapo Mabudi's obviously signed for Watford. That's what Dapo's going to be playing in. It's just kid-on, soft football, effectively played at training grounds. It's not a challenge in my opinion. I think English teams could probably benefit from what Rangers and Celtic are doing with regard to the B teams. I think Charlie McCann is probably, from what we can gather, is probably better than the level at the B team. But I think it would make sense for him to go and play for the B team for the next 3 or 4 months and get used to playing men's football. Obviously I watched the B team game the other night, Civil Service Strollers, and they were a bit more streetwise. They were a bit more up and at them, kicking and yellow cards and that sort of thing. So he's not going to be used to that in the sort of bubble, the passive under-23 development football. So I think that could be his short term, and I think as has been said, potentially a loan in the second half of the season. That could be a go to Dunfermline. We seem to be doing a bit of business with Dunfermline or a Wraith Rovers or somebody along those lines, But it's exciting. I mean, John's obviously. We don't need to do any homework. It's like I said to him this morning. I says I'm making inquiries if he's a 6 or an 8, and 5 minutes later he was telling me he was Billy Gilmour-esque and he'll be this and he'll be that, and that's good enough for me. And if it's good enough for John, it's good enough for Ross Wilson and Stephen Gerrard.
It's brilliant having John on, because John just researches everything. We don't actually do anything. All this has been put together by John, and John just tells us what to do. Because that was a question, Wilf, for CGM. Is Charlie McCann similar to Veerman? From what I've read, excuse me, I think maybe that ends the Veerman deal for us, saving us £5 million. But that only ends the Veerman deal and saves us money if Charlie McCann was coming from Manchester United into the first team, which I would... He might be. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think the boys have nailed it. I mean, I don't know the first thing about the guy either. I mean, it was only about an hour ago I even first heard the guy's name. But if he is what they say is he's 19 and he's a kind of combative midfield player, and he's been playing in the 23s for Man United, and we do get him. The B team's the place to put him, because I mean, I watched that Civil Service Strollers game as well. I mean, they were big and physical, and they like to tackle, and he'll learn a lot from that. And I wouldn't be so inclined to stick him out alone second half of the season, because if I've remembered it right from when the B team thing was arranged, you can play up to 5 first team games and still feature in the B team. Once you've played 6, you're no longer a B team player. So if the occasion arose, maybe an early Scottish Cup game in January against
Celtic,
somebody from the lower league, and they might say, well, we'll throw him in and see what he's learned. He could do a couple of games like that and still play for the B team, and then potentially put him out on loan this time next year, depending on how he's developing. Because he's going to get kicked more in the Rangers jersey than he is playing for like a Dunfermline or a Wraith Rovers, because they all want to, they're not as physical, I don't think, playing each other than they are playing against us. If that makes sense. So it's an exciting signing for the money they're quoting.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, and Stuart's. In fact, you know what? I'm going to come to Curry Muncher first because I think I need to pull him up about something, right? Look, sorry, I'm late. Expected the stream to be starting going on past 4 which is fair, right? Only when I'm not on, right? But also, I watched back the Real Madrid reaction. Curry Muncher, stop making fun of my hair, right? There's nothing wrong with my hair. I've even done it for you tonight, so stop taking the mickey out of my hair. I like my hair.
Looks brilliant.
Martin, can we not talk about here, because there's not a lot of it going on here apart from the new band.
I know.
Stuart Keane's putting, I doubt McCann is going ahead of Kelly in the first team. That's a really good point, Cammy. We've spoke so much about how Kelly's impressed, and I've certainly been impressed by Kelly, and I want to see him in the first team this season. But by all accounts, Charlie McCann kind of plays in a similar position. So we're bringing McCann in. If like a few of the guys have said he's going to come into the first team, what does that mean for Kelly?
But I think Stephen Kelly will be around the first team. I think we'll get plenty of opportunities this season. I certainly hope so. He's done exactly what I hoped to do. I hoped he would do during pre-season. I think I talk about succession planning. Davis and Arfield aren't going to go on forever. Glenn Kamara isn't going to be a Rangers player forever. So there's three players. You know, Stevie Kelly, McCann, the various young players in the B team and what have you. That's the sort of future. So I think you're potentially buying with a view to 12 months, 18 months down the line. Stephen Davis, Ryan Jack, Scotty Arfield are not going to play 50 games each. It's just not. It's certainly not going to happen. I mean, if Steve Davis manages that for another season on top of playing international football, it'll be astonishing and hopefully Champions League football. So I don't think the signing of McCann, although I think he can play a 6, an 8, a 10. I think very similar to Stephen Kelly. You're just having that next tier of players. As Davis and Arfield and Ryan Jack, you know, you're still going to have to manage Ryan Jack even if he does come back and able to play. I don't think he's ever going to be able to play 3 games in 10 days. I could be wrong, but I think you're just starting to beef up that area because you know that in 12, 18 months' time, you could potentially be short of bodies.
Well, absolutely. And Willie Irwin's covering more comments on YouTube, and he basically said the same. Look, you need to think ahead when you're doing signings. Can you ban a member for the chat? Is that possible? Are we allowed to ban members? Curry Muncher, sorry. No, wait a minute. Sorry.
Okay.
That's the wrong one. You know what one I'm looking for, don't you?
Yeah. I see it there.
It's not your hair I was slagging, it was your barber with a guide dog. Right?
That's true. That is what he said.
You know, I mean, listen, he's right, but just lay off, right? Okay, right. So we'll move on. And listen, this is something that I only want to touch on for a couple of minutes because I don't think it needs any more than a couple of minutes. We've seen obviously, ban Martin. We've seen Marvin Bartley come out ahead, obviously, of the game. We had his comments. I must admit, I agree with his comments. Wilf, whether you agree or disagree with taking the knee, whether you think it's this, whether you think it's that, when the players come out and say, look, it's nothing political, it's not about any political party, this is what we believe for to fight injustice or whatever. If you don't like it, fair enough, but just don't boo.
100%. I mean, I don't get the rationale of anybody booing it, because I would like to think the people booing it aren't particularly racist, and they're booing what the players are doing. If that's what the players feel they want to do to try and get a message across, that's entirely up to them. But our players need to come out and tell us what's changed, because towards the end of last season they were taking a stand against racism and discrimination. Yeah. They've now gone back to taking the knee and nobody said anything about it. Now, for me personally, I abhor any sort of discrimination. It really disgusts me. But the taking the knee obviously doesn't work, because they've been doing it for over a year. And, well, just look what happened to Glenn Kamara. You know, it's not working. But if the players feel that going to help their cause in the long term, who are we to criticise what they want to do? But I would implore anybody that's watching this that has even got the slightest feeling about booing it, please don't do it, because you're just making an absolute fucking idiot of yourself, because it makes you look as if you're going against what they're standing against. So it makes you sound a bit like a racist. And I'm not saying people that boo it are racist, because I like to think they're not. But what's booing it going to achieve? Booing it's going to achieve less than what I believe taking the knee has currently achieved. So guys, don't do it.
That's it, Cammy. Look, like I say, I don't care whether you agree with taking the knee, you don't agree with taking the knee, you don't feel it's made a difference. When football players come out and say, look, it's not about this political party, it's not even about Black Lives Matter, this is what we want to do because this is what we feel we want to stand against racism. It lasts a couple of seconds. Whether you're a supporter who agrees or disagrees, just don't boo it. Just don't boo your own players.
I think it'll be interesting to see who does the press conference tomorrow with the manager.
Yeah.
Aye, yeah. It will. And obviously Cammy's shatty sellout at talking about this subject. So I'll just pass that on to you, Jamie, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, it'll be good.
That's
a cracking comment. I'm assuming, I don't know if he was going to say maybe Tav, but it'd be good to see Glenn go out and do the press conference with the manager about it. For me, I don't know who watched it. If you didn't watch it, you should. The Balogun interview with a podcast down south.
Yeah, brilliant.
I thought, that was goosebumps material when he says, I fell in love with Rangers that day that happened. People, the tea ladies and the tea women were coming down and showing support. I just had seen wee Glasgow tea women coming down with their kettles in their hands to go for the Slavia players, and that's like amazing. That's just what our club should be all about. So I don't agree with the booing, but I know people say whatever they want to say about it, but it should just be about solidarity. And if the 11 players want to do stand, kneel, whatever, we should just be all behind them on it. So yeah, we need to be. It's about pride in our club. So yeah,
just basically Cammy, back your players.
100%. I would hope that tomorrow that potentially Tav or Golson do the press conference, and I think obviously things have changed since they take a stand at the back end of last season. We've taken the knee in all the pre-season games. Initially, I thought because we were playing against Arsenal and against Brighton, I thought it was potentially like the Scotland-England situation where the Scotland players had said they were going to take a stand, and then there was a wee bit of outcry, and then they decided that they were going to take the knee with England players. And then obviously we've done it on Sunday against Real Madrid. So it indicates to me that there's a change of tact with regard to what they believe to be the case. Which is it just off the back of what happened to the England players? I don't know. I think we potentially need a bit more. I would expect some sort of clarification on that one.
So listen, basically, just the whole point is, regardless of your feelings towards any of it, just don't boo your own players. Just please don't boo. That's it.
Martin, I think it's important that we don't forget what actually happened to Glenn Kamara. I'm a big Glenn Kamara fan, right? But we can't forget what happened to that guy on that park. And I think the stand or the knee or whatever we do should still happen for Rangers as a club. Even against UEFA, considering what happened to Cadella, barely a ban for what truly happened. So it's almost still showing we're standing against that team, that squad, that individual player or UEFA or whatever. I know we don't really want to go against UEFA, but there's still something to be had for showing support to Glenn, and then full stop on that.
No, listen, I just want to make the point that I'm not trying to spout political statements or anything here. I don't care what your view is on anything. Everybody's entitled to their own view. My whole point is just don't boo your own players. That's it. Right, okay, so let's move on. Just very, very quickly before we come to the Livingston preview. Wilf, obviously, they're gone mental behind me. I just can't get peace in this house. Wilf, Malmö obviously defeating Helsinki, so it will be Rangers Malmö in the next qualifier for the Champions League. We've seen a bit more. We've heard John speaking again. I'm going to need to start paying John. Are you happy with Malmö?
I'd have preferred Helsinki. because I think they're not as good a team. Well, they're not as good a team because Malmö will beat them. And there would be half a chance of getting to Finland because there's absolutely no chance of getting to Malmö because they're not letting British people in. But it's quite poetic if you're into all that sort of thing, because our last Champions League qualifying game was against Malmö in 2011. When they beat us, when we ended up with 9 men over there when Whittaker and Bugera, I think, set off.
Yeah.
Certainly ended up with 9 men anyway. So it's quite ironic that our first game back in the Champions League qualifiers is against the team our last game was against 10 years ago. But I fully expect to beat them and beat them quite comfortably. The only concerning thing is they're a dozen or so games into their season, so they are, they have got their match sharpness all sorted out. But I mean, Malmö are a fairly big European name. If you followed European football for sort of the length of time I have, Malmö used to be a club. I don't think they're half the club they were before. So I would expect us to win both legs.
Listen, so with that, and I'll just very, very quickly to the two of you, I'll just take the exact same question because I want to speak about Livingston and starting lineups and all that and get all happy about the first game of the season. Jamie, happy with Malmö?
I think I certainly expected to see Malmö dispatch a Helsinki a lot sweeter than they actually did. So that bodes well for me, I think, after watching that Real Madrid game. I know it was only a pre-season friendly, but I can't see Malmö being a problem to us. And I know they've been a bit loud on Twitter recently. I'm a big Twitter fan, obviously, but the Malmö fans have been pretty loud on Twitter saying that they're happy with the draw and they'll beat us and we're a nobody side and stuff like Scottish football's a joke. So we can take that into the game and see what happens after that.
Cammy?
I just think it would be great to get a really positive result across there, and almost a bit like what we've done against that pub team from Denmark that we scored 7 against a couple of years ago. I think it would be good to do similar to make the home leg almost just. I'm not saying a training ground game, but I think if Rangers play like we can, if we play like we did for certainly the first hour against Real Madrid, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
No, I need to keep remembering that I keep muting my mic because of these guys behind me. Right, okay, so finally we can do a match preview for a league game, Wilf, because the season is starting. First things first, are you going to the game?
Does Dolly Parton sleep on her back?
I don't know.
I couldn't use the other one. I don't want us thrown off the air.
So how are you looking forward, Wilf, to get? I mean, how long has it been since we got to a league game at Ibrox?
Longer. Well, what's it been? It's been over 500 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's been. I can't wait to get back to competitive football at Ibrox. I mean, I've been fortunate. I've been to the 3 home friendlies, and I was down in Tranmere, so I've been really lucky. But there's nothing like competitive football at Ibrox, and I mean the stadium's going to be half full, and I'll absolutely guarantee you that the place will be absolutely bouncing. And I mean that would be enough to carry the players through to a positive result, irrespective of the fact that they're a much better team than the opposition. So I'm like a dog with 2 dicks, to be perfectly honest.
Yes, well,
fair enough. Jamie, obviously it's Livingston. They have over the past few years caused us some problems. Not so much at home. I don't think it's mostly been away. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I know who's in their team, because I don't. But obviously Martindale came in last season, seemed to do a good job, kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. So obviously what would normally be Flag Day, obviously Flag Day's been moved.
Yeah.
First game of the season at home as champions. Do Livingston worry you at all?
Nah, no, I don't want to disrespect them, but I done a wee bit of research. So what a turnaround, man! And this is the thing with these clubs. It's a shame because they've brought in 16 players and there's 11 went out, 16 came in. So you don't even know you don't know what Livingston will be like this season. You know, probably lost their 3 best players last year in the big centre half, Guthrie, the big striker Emmanuel Thomas went to Aberdeen, and then the boy went to Kilmarnock, who looked pretty decent. We fell out with Martindale, so that was probably their 3 best players. And they've brought in Shinnie, who was a tidy centre midfielder that was a Rangers youth, I think, wasn't he? And been down south. And other than that, apart from probably loaning Ben Williamson from Rangers, who will only play, they've brought in like 11 guys for England non-league and all sorts of stuff. So it's a bit of we don't really know what we're going to get from Livingston, but I'd probably say that for me they're my favourites to perhaps get relegated this season, which I don't want to put the jinx on it, but I can't see anything other than a Rangers win.
I know, it's pretty much the same, Cammy. Although, look, first game of the season, you know, and like CGM's saying there, he likes Martindale. I thought Martindale was doing a cracking job with Livingston last season.
He's a very personable type of guy. I think it's clear that he's got a lot of respect for Steven Gerrard and Michael Beale and the job that the guys are doing. But I think they punched massively above their weight last season, completely overachieved, as has been said, tailed off towards the latter part of the season because basically the job was done for them well before. They were pretty much guaranteed top 6 and what have you. I hate the plastic pitch at Livingston. I hope they finish bottom 6 because that means we only have to go to Livingston once this season, which is in the fact that we've already lost Hamilton from a plastic pitch. That if we don't have to play on, how can I forget? That's gutted to lose them as well. But I think one plastic pitch in the league would be ideal. It's always a bit cliched. It's about what Rangers turns up. If we turn up with the tempo and the movement that we did against, as much as it wasn't a full strength Real Madrid side, the movement of the front 3 was sensational, you know, and Hadji playing a bit deeper and that sort of thing. If we were to score early, I could see a very comfortable Rangers win on Saturday.
Right, now, I don't know how well this question is going to go down, Wolf, right, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there any part of you that's Cammy's laughing because he knows it's a hashtag crap question? Is there any part of you that's maybe worried a little bit about the players? And we'll come to who we think is going to get picked in a wee bit. But the majority of these players, I think the majority of them haven't played in front of any sort of crowd in a competitive game yet. Is that a worry for you at all going into this game?
Not at all. No, not at all. Because they're all experienced enough. The players that I would expect to start for us, they're all experienced enough. If anything, I would expect the Livingston players to possibly get a bit of stage fright because it's not Flag Day, but it's Rangers kicking off the season as champions. The place will be absolutely bouncing. If Rangers players can't feed off that, I'm sorry, they're at their own club. I mean, they really are. I mean, I'm buzzing for. I'm buzzing for it already. You know, I mean, I want the game to kick off now because we've waited. Well, we've waited 10 years for this to kick off a season as champions. You know, and we've waited. It's sweeter because we've waited 16 months to get back into the ground to see us in a competitive game. I mean, everything's aligned. I think we'll come out the traps absolutely flying. Get the game put to bed. Make some changes with Tuesday night in mind. But I think the team that starts will come absolutely out the traps flying. I expect us to be very comfortable by half time. Unless their goalkeeper, who I don't even know who it is now, is an absolute worldly. You know what I mean?
See when you're on a podcast, right? Now, we're not a professional podcast or anything, right? We've got no dealings with Rangers. I don't even class us as fan media. We're just a podcast that like to talk about Rangers. We really should know the players in the opposite team when we're doing a preview on them. But Jamie Curryman's just asking, if anything, I think the players will love the fans being back in the stadium. They will feed off the fans.
I probably agree.
Which they should.
I agree with that, man. I think I just can't take to this, I know saying hashtag crap question, I'm not even entertaining anything. I think there's some people out there who are holding on to this little glimmer of hope that these Rangers players won't be able to do it in front of fans. Now, a lot of rubbish. I think Wilf said it, man. We'll come out of the traps on Saturday, and I fully think we'll give them a bit of a doing. I really do. The stadium will be rocking. Was it 23? It's going to be bouncing, even though it's only going to be 23. So I think the players are going to love it. It's just about who starts. So that's the next big thing, I think.
Are you trying to tell me how to do my job here, Jamie?
No, I just thought
Well, that was a good segue. That was a good segue. You've just fucking ruined it.
I wanted to get this in. I can't name any Liverpool players. Don't worry about it. Thank you very much, CGM. Right, Cammy, who starts? Right, Wilf, who starts?
Right, he's frozen again. Right, okay, right. So I've actually thought about this, believe it or not.
Right.
So I think the back five picks itself.
Right.
You've got McGregor and nets. You'll have Tav, Barisic out wide with Goldson and Helander centre backs. The midfield, I expect to see Lundstrom, Davis, and Kamara.
Agree.
And up front, where we've got a problem with who we're going to pick. I would expect Ryan Kent certainly will start.
Yeah.
So I would personally start Big Cedric Itten.
Right.
And I would either put Wright or Sakala on the other side.
Right, there's no either or. It's one or the other.
I know that. I think we'll go for Sakala.
Well, again, Curry Muncher, Kent, Hadji, Sakala. Cammy, you put obviously a poll out on the Rangers Rabble Twitter page. I think it was about either Sakala or Itten who starts up front. I think just because it was straight after the Real Madrid game, I think Sakala won it by a mile, but that's slightly unfair on Itten, is it not?
Big man's had a great pre-season, you know. I mean, from a goals point of view, I think trying to pick the front six, I think anybody that picks the front six will probably do quite well because we've got so many options, and that's without Roof, Morelos, and Aribo. You've still got the three to throw into the mix, sort of thing. I was very, very impressed with Sakala, to be honest with you. Itten took his goal fantastically well. I would start Sakala Saturday, and I would start Itten midweek in Malmö, potentially with Sakala if you were playing like a front three sort of thing. So you could effectively go across there with Kent, Itten, and Sakala. Whereas on Saturday I would go Kent, Sakala, and Scott Wright. You know, but it's we've got a great number of options, and it's a fantastic position to be in.
Fantastic position.
But do you know, sorry, Martin. Cammy, do you not think that my thinking behind putting Big Itten in is the fact that he's big? Because I don't know who's going to be in the Livingston team, but they're going to be big and physical at the back.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's why I would put Big Cedric through the middle, because he can, you know, he can noise him up a bit, and maybe whoever's playing wide, whether it's Wright or Sakala and Kent, can just feed off him all the time. That's the only reason I would start Itten through the middle.
I think we're in such a positive position after the performance against Real Madrid. I think we're all excited about the variety of options. He's playing Hadji deeper as an 8. Hadji could play as the wide player in the front three. You just can't really second guess what the lineup will be, and it's just the fact that there's still players to come back into the, you know, 3 players: Morelos, Aribo, and Kemar Roof that could potentially, and if you even throw Ryan Jack into the mix, if the Ryan Jack that is injury free, there's 4 players that could be in a starting 11. You know, I mean, it's going to be an achievement for a young player like Stevie Kelly to make the bench. I think Scotty Arfield, the competition for places is what Steven Gerrard wants, and I think when you get your chance, you have to grab it, because if you don't take your chance, somebody's going to be in at your back, and I think that can only help us have a positive season and start off with a good win on Saturday.
Can I just say hello to Devon in Canada? So Devon's a place, Canada. Welcome along. Thank you very much for watching. We've got a question for you, Jamie. Martin, what's the top Duff is wearing? Staunch as fuck.
It is. It's Ajax 88, 89 in it. Aye. It's a belter in it.
It's a very, very, very nice one. We had a comment in from CGM, and listen, we've actually went over 8 o'clock, so we need to get a move on here. I keep clicking on the wrong comments. Sakala will play against Malmö. His gas is perfect for the away game in Europe. Is that quite possibly, Jamie, what Gerrard might do then? Play it on Saturday and keep Sakala? Because what we have to remember about Sakala, he's not had a full pre-season.
Well, you want to answer your own question?
No,
you want me?
No, you go for it.
That's what I was going to say. My only worry isn't he looked brilliant, but he's not played any games other than that half or whatever it was against me. So that would worry me a wee bit. But then, how can you play him in the Malmö if he doesn't get some sort? So he definitely will play a part on Saturday. Yeah. I think Itten will play, and then I think Sakala. Basically, what Cammy said. I think Itten will play, and then Sakala might get more on the weekend. One we've not really mentioned, I think Scott Wright's had a belter there pre-season. I think he'll start. I think Itten, Wright and Kent will start. And I just seen we interplays with, I know I've not got Hadji my starting 11 for the weekend, but Kent and Hadji and Wright, I've got a funny feeling they're going to run amok this year. Although I would say Scott Wright needs a good tan. He's built up, he looks, but he's the whitest boy I've ever seen. Anyway,
see, I probably shouldn't ask this question, right? Because we really need to finish. But Cammy, see if you look at our team, and I'm talking about players that are going to participate in the team going forward, all-round squad. When was the last time we had a Rangers squad this strong?
I saw, but obviously we're having a laugh at our neighbours across the city, the sort of mess that they're in. But I seen a starting 11 which would probably beat the current side, you know, and it's incredible, you know. I think it was a midfield three of Stevie Kelly, Scotty Arfield, and Joe Aribo. You know, it's frightening. You know, Nathan Patterson, Calvin Bassey, the depth, and I think I was listening to a pod earlier on, and this has been 3 years in the making, and I think the European runs, the additional finance from that, I think the fans backing season tickets, my jers, strips, training ranges, all that sort of stuff, it's allowing us to have the quality. And you go back to probably Dick Advocaat when they had the night training day, and we had like probably three starting 11s. You know, you know how that ended up, because Dick Advocaat loved throwing money at players without a great deal of David Murray saying no to him. But I think it's so exciting, and I think that's to go back to what we said. I don't think there's a position that is glaring. I don't think unless a player leaves, I think the squad as it stands is more than good enough to compete at home and abroad and have a very successful season. And I think it's great that you can't. We always try to have a laugh and pick the starting 11, but I think anybody that gets the starting 11, well, certainly gets the front six. I think the back five pretty much picks itself. But anybody that manages to pick the front six has done well, to be honest with you. But I think the comment says it's a great time to be a teddy bear, but we need to focus 100%. We've had a great laugh over the last 24 hours and what have you. It's about what Rangers do. We don't want to become complacent, and we have our foot on their throat, sort of thing. We have to show no mercy and go out and be dominant and to cliche, be relentless and win games and put pressure on. We've waited a long time to be in this position. We want to be dominant for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Curry Muncher, your mate. This is going to go on forever, Wolf. We have praised everything within the Rangers on where we are now. I think the fans should get the biggest credit for the massive support and financial help we have given to the team over the years. Well, just a mention for the supporters, me, you, Cammy, Jamie, everybody in the comments, every Rangers fan worldwide. It's simply not just because, but a massive part of where Rangers are now is down to the fans.
Without any question, I fully believe, and it's not just because I'm a Rangers fan, I believe this. There's not another football club anywhere on planet Earth would have survived what we've been through. I mean, just look at, going back to the separated ones in the East End. Look at their reaction when they lost one game. We got thrown down four divisions. We got put from the top to the very, very bottom, and all we did was rally around. We kept turning up. We sold out grounds all over the country. We sold out Ibrox every week. We were very, very fortunate that a group of wealthy Rangers fans came in at the time they did to save the club in March 2015, and the fans got right behind them. And the fact, I personally know fans who've spent an awful lot more money on Rangers than they can actually afford. On season tickets, on merchandise, on whatever the club's asked for. Rangers seem to be asking for money every single day, and it's ridiculous. But some people feel duty bound that they just have to do it. You should only do it if you can afford it.
Yeah.
But people just feel that they have to do it. The fans have been incredible. The fact, like I say, the fact that we were selling out grounds, there's not another club in existence could have survived what we've been through. We thoroughly deserve this, and I believe that we're probably a season ahead of where we should be, but that's all down to the European runs that we've had, because that's where all the finances come from, and they've spent the money really well, and they've done. We deserve our club to be back where we are because of what we've been through, what we've continued to do back in the club. Also, the club deserve us to be there for what they've done for us.
And also, you have to say that whilst we're handing out credit, Steven Gerrard, I think, and maybe this is just me, but I very, very much doubt it. I think every Rangers fan would agree. Steven Gerrard has to go down in the history books for what he's done for this football club. We are where we are just now because of the management of not just Steven Gerrard, Michael Beale, Tom Culshaw, everybody, but Steven Gerrard, man, just what a legend. Let's not look beyond the fact that Dave King, Stuart Robertson, and the current board took an enormous gamble when they said to Steven Gerrard, "Do you want to come and do this for us?" Because he was an unproven manager. He'd never managed a club, and they took as much of a risk on him as he took on them. So they all deserve an enormous amount of credit for first of all for them having the balls to go and say, "Listen, Steven, do you want to do this?" And for him to say, "Yeah, I'm going to do this." It's incredible. It's just, you speak to somebody else, I'm going to start to meet them about it. Guys, stop. I am getting emotional.
But see what Wilf says. It's only 9 years ago we were at Brecon in the hedge, and it's astonishing. Just over 3 years ago, we had went across the city and got pumped 5 and 4 in a Scottish Cup semi-final. The turnaround in the space of 3 years is absolutely unbelievable, and there's so many people that deserve credit: supporters, manager, players, boards, investors. We are all as one, and we have never, I don't think in my lifetime have we been stronger on and off the park. The structure, sports science, all that sort of stuff. I think it's we are effectively being run as an English Premiership operation. I think very much the standards are high, and I think Ross Wilson and Steven Gerrard will keep those standards higher.
Yeah, and I just want to get a prediction off you so we can finish, guys, but people keep asking questions. Jedi Bob, and I don't know, why was Aribo missing in the last 3 friendlies? If any of you guys know, please inform me and everybody watching.
Probably ask Clive Tilsley, because he was the one that was dropping hints.
There you go. Okay, right, predictions for a Livingston game. Wilf.
Rangers to win. Sorry, do you want to score? Sorry, do you want to score?
Yes, please.
A very, very, very comfortable 3-0 win for Rangers.
Okay, Jamie?
4-0.
4-0. Cammy?
To who?
I think we'll start the season with a thumping 5-0 win.
5-0 win. There you go, Jedi Bob 4-0, RFC 55 4-0, Devon 4-0. So listen, guys, that will do us. We've went way over time. I can feel the heat coming for my missus, so I better finish up there. Listen, Cammy, Wilf, guys, as ever, thanks very much. Jamie, mate, appreciate you making your debut. Yeah. You've done brilliant.
Loved it.
Thank you to everybody in the comments. Please do like and oh, wait a minute, Curry Muncher. Come on, guys, stop commenting. 5-0 to the right. So thank you very, very much, everybody, for watching. Appreciate it. Subscribe, like. If you want to become a member and get behind-the-scenes content, behind-the-scenes podcasts, you're more than welcome to do that and help support the podcast. So until Saturday, stay safe and we shall speak to you very, very soon.